Welcome back to another edition of Real Spiritual Talk Radio. I am your host, Lamont Gates, once again bringing you the role of faith, metaphysicality, and spirituality. Today, my guest was resuscitated several times, and after his near-death experience, he came back and realized that his experience was beyond description. Joining me today, ladies and gentlemen, is near-death experiencer, Mr. Bryan Jordan. Bryan, welcome to Real Spiritual
How
Talk
are you?
Radio.
How
Good,
are
good.
you?
Glad
Yeah.
to have you on. Very
Yes,
glad to have
sir.
you here. Now, Bryan,
Yes,
I'm
sir.
very interested in getting into your near-death experience, but before I do that, see if you can walk us backwards a little bit so we can get a little context about your religious and or spiritual belief systems prior to your near-death experience, if you had any. Were there any
Yes.
concepts of the afterlife or belief systems you held concerning the afterlife?
I was raised in a very religious church. And so I had it. It was in my background. I didn't follow it after I became a man, but I mean, it's just some things I didn't agree with. Um, as far as when you die and the things you have to do to see heaven. So I kind of believed in God on my own and just lived a normal life and treated everybody as good as I could. But as far as a heavy spiritual or different, or was I in the church? No, no. But
So
I
this
do
was
believe in God.
so this was a childhood religion that you were taught and you kind of grew out of it as you became an adult.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So why don't you talk to us about what it was that triggered your near-death experience to occur? I know you died several times. Talk to us about that.
Yes, sir. I got up one morning. I went to work. It was a Saturday, and we were gonna work a half a day or a short day because we normally did 11 hours or 12 hours a day. This was going to be a short day. So I'm a heavy equipment operator and I was running a bulldozer. And so I stopped for lunch and I ate me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And I immediately went back to work. And in the first minute or so, I had this pressure in my neck, heavy pressure. And I had never felt that before. And so I stopped and I got off the machine, and then my breathing started laboring. I could tell my something was going on with my breathing. So I was working with another guy, water truck driver, and I had him to take me to the office because I thought I was having heartburn. So as the first closer we got to the office, the more I was laboring. I'm like, what is this? So when I walked into my medic, I said, I am having chest pains from because I had this a year before. I wasn't thinking heart attack. And she was looking at me and she was like, no. She said, I'm gonna give you some because I told her I wanted some Tums. And she like, so she gave me some aspirin and Tums. And she made me sit down, and then my safety man came in because news started spreading that I came in, I was sick. So he came in and he told her, well, I'm gonna take him with me to our other office. And she said, he's not going anywhere. And I sat there and I'm like, man, I'm at work. This is the worst time to be sick, but it happens when it happens. So I was sitting there and then my arm started hurting. That's when I knew. I said, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. But I didn't get afraid like I did the first time. And I said, God, if I offended you, I'm sorry. Because I knew I was in trouble. And so as I sat there, my mother started calling. I said, I can't answer that right. And I'm glad I didn't. Because right after that, I felt myself getting sleepy. Actually, I felt myself passing out. And and my safety man was sitting right across from me. We was almost knee to knee. And when I started passing out, I said, man, I hope he catch me. That was my last thought before I slammed my face into the floor. So I opened my eyes and my medical's on top of me. She just pushing my chest, pushing my chest. So she never saw me open my eyes. And I said, "Hey," and she looked at me, man, and she just jumped off of me. And I'm like, I said, "What you doing?" And she said, "Bryan," she said, "your heart stopped." And I said, "Oh no," I said, "No, it didn't." I said, "I was asleep because I was dreaming." And now she really looking at me like, you're like, she said, "Bryan," she said, "you died." And I said, "No." I said, "No, I didn't feel like I was dead. I'm ready to argue with this lady." And that's when I looked down and my shirt was cut off and the patches were on my chest and the machine was sitting there just talking, the defibrillator, AED, however they say it. And that's when it really hit me. And I made them get me off the floor. You telling me I was dead? I said, "Ain't no way." Uh, but then because of the stuff that I was seeing, so immediately when my eyes closed, when I fell out the chair, man, it's like when I start paying attention to where I was amongst the stars. I was amongst the stars. And so I'm looking around and you could tell I was like in the universe. And there were things happening. As I was sitting there, there were these things. Now, a lot of this stuff, some I can tell you that some I can remember and some I can't. So as far as me looking at them, I can't remember what they were. I don't know if there was it was a craft or they could have been angels. I remember looking at them, and as I was looking at them, they were shooting across the universe, just shooting across, and they were leaving these trails of lights behind them, as they go back and forth. And that's when I told myself, I said, what are those? Because I've never seen nothing like that before. So, and I hate that I'm sure it's going to come back one day to exactly what I was looking at. But they were doing their thing. And that's when I said to myself, I said, okay, I remember falling out the chair. Um, I remember falling out the chair. I said, I'm asleep. I must have passed out or something. So that's when I said to myself, I said, I must be dreaming because I don't know what I'm looking at. And so each time something changed, it was like a channel. It's like, so I left from there and I was somewhere else. So now I'm in this huge, under this dome type. It reminded me of a cave because the walls were rock and it came and it was just like a big dome. It wasn't scary or nothing. It was lit inside of there. And the thing about, man, that place, um, as the walls came down, like we have walls come down, connect to the floor, where there was no floor. There was no floor. So, and I'm perfectly still. And I'm looking down to where there should be a floor. And I was looking into the universe. I was looking, it's like we stand outside at night and look up. Well, I was up looking down, um, where there should have been a floor. So what was there were square cut rocks, like a walkway. It was a pathway. There were two rocks together side by side, and there's a space. So there's a whole walkway floating here, just just floating there. I looked right, they went, and even there they had steps. As you go, they would drop down a little bit and drop down a little bit. Very unique, very unique. And it curved to where I couldn't see them. So when I looked to the left, this pathway went to the wall, and the wall there was a door, and there was somebody in the doorway. So I'm a good distance away, and I'm looking at the door, and there's a being there that I could see through. I could see right through him. And he was in the doorway and he wouldn't move. And I'm looking at, so we looking at each other. So and I have to tell you, there's no fear. Not one time was I ever afraid of anything. Fear never came into the picture, not one time. So as we looking at each other, I'm saying to myself, I'm like, what is that? You know, and Lamont, that's when everything started happening. I said to myself, I said, I want to go and see what that is. And soon as I got is out my mind, I took off like a bullet. I was going so fast, I could see the stuff passing by or whatever, the wall that was there. I could see stuff. It was like I was a bullet. And when I got to where he was, I went above the doorway. I was against the wall above him in the doorway because if you did a lot of these stories, you'll know that they don't like you to see their faces. So I don't know. I guess he zoomed me up above him. So when I got to the wall, I was freaking out. I was so excited on how did I just do that? How did I move that fast? We don't do that on Earth. And so I said to myself right then, I know I'm dreaming now. I was convinced. I just moved like a bullet and came to a stop and it's like it felt nothing. And that's when I remembered why I went there. And so I looked down to, and he was under me. He was up under me. He, she, I don't know. They were under me, and once I got to that door, they left. They simply start floating along that rock path that was floating above the universe or the place with no floor, the room with no floor. And then I watched him just float away, and he went all the way and turned and disappeared. And that's when everything went jet black dark. And I was looking up. Why I was looking up, I don't know. But I think I started to go on cruise control, or my soul started to take over because I was looking up. I had no clue why I was looking up. And then that's when I saw a light. It was a light like far away. It looked like somebody had a flashlight and was looking for something in the dark, you know? And man, when that light turned on me, it was so bright. I threw my hands up, or if I had hands, I don't know. But the reaction, of course, that's what you're gonna do if somebody stick a light in your face. And I threw my hands up, and instantly I was inside the light. So now I'm inside the light, and I'm looking around. Everything is light, and it was like I was inside of a light bulb. Um, everything was light, and so I could tell I was changing because I wasn't asking questions like I was in the first two parts. So now I'm in the light and I'm changing. I wasn't as curious no more, you know? And so the light in front of me started changing into a fog. It was a fog. And I was looking at the fog and then it started thinning out. And as the fog started thinning out, I could see a blue sky. I'm looking at a blue sky. And I'm like, okay. So as I'm being nosy as to what's happening with the fog, something just took me. It took me, and it could have been God's hand. I don't know. But I went into this ecstasy of love, and it was flowing through my soul like currents. Like if I stuck my hand and grabbed a live bolt, and it just flows through you, man, and it's so deep. And all you feel is love, love, love. And it's like unending. And it's just flowing through you. Best I could describe it is like if I took you and stuck you under the Niagara Falls at the bottom with all that force coming down on you. That's how that love was just running through me. That's the best way I can try and describe that because it just takes you. I was taken. I never forget that was the best feeling out of the whole NDE experience was that love. And so as all that was flowing through me, I saw the words forgiveness, I saw the words love, and then I saw the word peace. And when I saw the word peace, I came out. Look, I came out of the light, and I was in the sky, and I felt like a god. I was in the sky looking down at at I was looking at land and trees. And man, I tell you, I wasn't Brian anymore. I didn't say, "Whoa, I'm up here in the sky. Check this out." All of that was gone. I completely changed into something else, and I was very, very powerful, and I knew it. I knew I was powerful. I had no more earth thoughts. Everything earthly was gone. I never thought nothing about no earth. It was gone. I had the greatest peace. My mind thought about nothing about unless what I was looking at. No car notes, no heart attack. I didn't even remember no heart attack, no pain. Everything earth was gone. And as I was up there floating in the sky looking down, I came down out of the sky real slow, no rush. And I went to these pine trees and I started at the tops of the pine trees, looking at the needles because the needles were so green, green, real green. And so I started floating down and I was looking at the needles. And when I tell you you know what a pine tree looks like with all the needles on it, I could see all of them. I could see every needle, every individual single needle, nothing escaped me. And I floated all the way down looking at all the needles on the tree. Man, stuff was incredible. So I got down to the bottom, the tree went into the ground, and I floated backwards. I floated backwards and I looked down because the trees were up on like a cliff. So that was a big drop off. And the walls of the dirt or whatever was the same color of the walls that was inside the cave. It was orange color, orange rock color. And when I looked below me, I was floating over this garden. This garden was huge. The flowers were huge. They was just one flower was like the size of your dinner table at home. They were huge and they were shining. The colors of these things were entrancing. Once I started looking at them, I couldn't see nothing. I couldn't look away. I couldn't look away from these flowers. And it was like they were alive. It's like they were almost looking back at me, like, yeah, we see you. And I can see, I was looking at them. Mind you, now I'm up here floating and I'm drifting to the right. I was drifting real slow to the right. And I'm looking down and I could see that way and I could see that way. These flowers ran in this valley, like, and they ran, and there's millions of them, and they went far as your eye can see on either way. While I could see that way and that way, I could see the rays, the white rays were coming out the sky, real white. Um, I didn't see where they're coming from. I had a feeling it was the light that brought me there that was waiting to take me back because I couldn't stay. So, as I could see all of that, I was zooming in the flowers. I would zoom them up to me. I could zoom them in individually and still see was there and still see everything that way and that way. It was incredible, man. And as I soaked all that in, because I couldn't look away from the flowers, they just had me. And so the channel changed again, or however, and I was in the sky. And I was by myself. I was no land, no nothing, just me in the blue, blue sky. And then something happened with the sky. It, it's just like you're looking at a blue sky and something shit or open or something. And then that was these four lights, white, super bright lights. And as I watched these lights, they started either I was going to them or they were coming to me because they were getting bigger. And halfway there, all of these other lights just start popping up around, popping up all over me. And it was like I was a disturbed bee nest. These lights were swirling, and I'm just watching the lights just swirling all around me. And when the big lights got there, all of the little lights started leaving me. And like little bullets, they was going to the big lights, going all around me, taking off to the big lights. And they were all going to the top light. And as I was watching this show, these lights started melting together. And then I could see a head. They was filling him in, and then a neck. Then it went out to the shoulders and down, and you could tell he was either holding his hands because his elbows came to a point. Inside he light, you can't see hands or nothing. And man, when they filled him in, and I looked at him, his head was down. He had his chin on his chest. And man, he raised his head and started looking at me. I wasn't afraid of nothing because I was in that. I got really excited after I opened my eyes on the floor. I'm like, check this out. So he lifted his head and he started looking at me. And then on the side of his head and on the top, there was little wave of lights. Lights were waving on each side of his head and at the top, like this. That's how the lights was doing. And then he started flying. He started going up in the sky, then down and sideways. And the whole while he was doing that, he was turning his head. He was looking. He never stopped looking at me. If he go below me, he'd look up like that or down. And he just did all of that. And then he came back to me, and here we go, looking at each other again. And then he took off. He left so fast, like I moved in the cave. He took off like a bullet. And there were traces of himself. And I watched till all the traces disappeared. And then that's when I opened my eyes on the floor. He stayed with me until they revived me.
Wow, that's a lot of information you were able to bring back. I know originally you stated that you may not be able to remember much, but it sounds like you brought
Oh man, I
quite a
forgot a
bit
lot
back.
of it. Yep. That's what he looked like right here.
So that image behind you is the image that you
Yes.
saw.
Yes, sir, it is. Yep.
So let me ask a few questions. I have several questions actually. So
Go ahead, my brother.
you had verification the minute you opened your eyes up. You said they were pumping your chest, and when they saw your eyes open, they
I
moved
scared him.
back. Yes, you startled them because
Yes.
they said you were dead. So you got the
Wow.
verification right then and there when you opened your eyes that you were actually dead.
And I never even knew it. The whole time I was there, not one inkling crossed my mind saying I had died. I thought I was dreaming.
Now, while you were having this experience, which we now know is a near-death experience, you said scenes were shifting. There were different scenes. You started out in a cave. You then, you started out in space. You saw
And
these
the
entities
stars.
going back and forth, and then you ended up
Yes.
in this cave where you were able
Yes.
to move like the speed of light.
Yeah.
And there you saw entities. And from there, you went into this bright light and you felt this immense love, this immense, I guess, pleasure when wherever you were. And at any given time that you say to yourself, I'm not dreaming because this just feels too real.
Oh no. I mean, when you say die, um, that's a real big word. But I never, not one time, not I when I first hit the stars, I said, okay, I fell out the chair, I'm asleep. And then when I moved like a bullet and I'm seeing this invisible, I'm thinking he was my guide because he never moved from the door. And he's just there and we looking at each other and he was like, Brian's gonna figure it out how to move himself. And I figured it out. I just thought it and off I went.
And that's exactly my next question. You seem to have this motor control. You said you were up in the air in this aerial position looking down. You said you yourself felt like a god. Uh,
Oh
did
man.
did you have the motor control? Could you move left and right if you wanted to, or do you feel something was pulling you?
No, I mean it's like I was on a cruise control. I my soul just went. I wasn't thinking, I wasn't even there no more. My soul, when I came out of there, I was completely changed and I was very powerful and could have done whatever I wanted at any given time.
And the feeling was automatic. As you said, you weren't really
Automatic.
thinking.
No. I looked down and I saw the trees and I just started floating down to the land and to the gardens.
Another heightened sensory ability you seem to have while you were over there was this visual 360
Oh
ability.
yeah.
You could see, and we're not talking just peripheral side view, you could see everywhere around you while zooming into these plants and parts of pine trees that you were looking at.
Yes. Yes. I mean, it was like it was I mean, it's like you have a bunch of TV screens in front of you and each one showing something different. But imagine all that in one. I could see all that going on. No problem. I just don't remember seeing what made the rays come out the sky, what was causing the light from that place. I know it was no sun. They don't do suns there.
And the light is natural, right?
Yeah.
More
Yeah.
natural than natural, spiritually natural, I guess we could say.
Yes.
So
Yes.
then, as far as you can recall, you saw this light show happening, these smaller lights, and then there was a bigger light that formed, which was the silhouette of some sort of male figure or male entity, very similar to the picture behind you that you just showed the audience.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
Out of all of this time that you were there, was there any type of communication? Many near death experiencers talk about telepathic or telepathy uh, in terms of communication. Did anyone say anything to you? Did you say anything back to it?
No, that happened in my hospital bed.
So there was no conversation. It was just visual
Nothing.
and feeling.
Feeling. It was like I was on a tour because the channel kept changing. And that brings up, I guess, to the next one.
So let's talk about that. I know you said you died 3 times. Was this your first? Was this your
That
first death?
yes, that was the first one, and I think she told me with all the commotion, me just dropping dead. She said probably took it. I was probably gone at least 4 to 5 minutes.
4 to 5 or 45?
No, 4 to 5 minutes. Oh no, 4 to 5 minutes.
4 to 5 minutes. Okay, so
Yes,
this
sir.
was
Yes, sir.
very brief, but it probably felt like you were there for an eternity.
When I asked her when I came back, I said, "How long was I dead?" She said, "I thought she was gonna say an hour." Man, because it was the time. Man, she said 4 minutes. I might have been up there in the stars in the first part, and that could have might have been 4 minutes, or that with the cave a little bit. But man, look all what I saw and all the time and all what happened. And she said 4 minutes. I could not believe it. I couldn't believe it.
Yes, many near
Nope.
death experiencers consistently say that time on that side is much different than our earthly time here.
Yes. Yes. Oh, yes. It's like the time don't move. Like
So,
the time doesn't move.
with that said, why don't you take us into your second death experience, if you could?
Okay. Yes, sir. After they got me off the floor, uh, everybody was in there now. I was looking at my friends, and when I look up at them, here I am sitting here dying, and they couldn't do nothing about it. They couldn't help me or nothing. But the thing about it, Lamont, they were feeling sorry for me. And after what I saw, I was feeling sorry for this whole world. I mean, they looking at me like, and I'm looking at them, and I'm like, man, if y'all only knew what I just saw. And I felt sorry for the whole world on on how people think, how everybody go about their daily life, and you gotta, okay, we gotta do this to get to heaven, or you gotta do that, and you gotta do all this stuff, and all you gotta do is love each other. And it's just that simple. So the ambulance gets there. They take me and put me in the ambulance, and they lay me down, hook me to all this stuff. And then I remember a jerk. I felt a jerk, slight jerk. And then there I was standing there looking in my face. I was looking in my face, and my eyes were closed. My head was tilted to, like I'm asleep or dead. My mouth was open because I could see my top teeth, and and I didn't know what I was. I did not know what I was looking at. I had no clue of what I was looking at. I thought as of my body as an it. I didn't want to get near it. I didn't want to touch it. I didn't want to have nothing to do with it. And as I looked in my face a while, that's when I took off again. And this time I didn't go through the light and all the other stuff. Because when I left the second time, I was just like myself when I came back from the first time. There was no questions, no this, no that. I was still in that super mode or whatever I was. Uh, and then in front of me was this big giant circle, huge circle. And inside this circle, there was flowers. And each color of flowers had their own groups. They had all their own groups, and they filled the circle. So automatically I didn't even have to wonder about what I was looking at. It's like I knew. And we all are one. We all are different colors, different languages, different people in our own group. But still, we are inside of one circle. And that one circle is all of that lets me know we are all one. I don't care what you look like, what you think about somebody else. We are all one. And so, and then the channel, I had channels changing. Like that's the best way I can describe it. I went, then I went to another spot, and this it was amazing too, because I was inside of this white room, pure white walls, white floors. It's like I was in a museum because they have podiums there inside the room. And on top of these podiums were these black dogs. And these black dogs, uh, I remember growing up or in class or whatever history, the Egyptians would draw these dogs on the walls, and they had long nose, and at the end it was a ball. It wasn't drawn. They didn't draw them like a dog's supposed to look like. They drew them how they drew them on the cave walls and stuff. And that's exactly what I was looking at, just like somebody drew the dog, but they weren't alive. It's like statues. Like I said, I felt like I was in a museum, some type of museum. And they had these animals in this pure white room um, on display. And then from there, the channel changed, and I was back in the sky amongst the stars, and I was looking down at the Earth, or what I thought to be the Earth, because it was blue. I mean, that blue was so deep blue that it glowed, and around the Earth was this mist. It looked like a mist, just the same mist that was in the light with me. That the walls turned to the mist. That it was like that, and it was so beautiful, man. And as I was looking at it, it was like the size of an orange because I was on an angle here. It was here, and I'm looking down at it, and it was so beautiful, man. And I was like, wow, how could something be so beautiful and have all that evil on it? Oh, it's so evil. But to look at it from up there, looking down at it, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. And I, I I had other stuff flashing in front of me. Those I can't remember. There was a lot of different other stuff that I was seeing. And then I opened my eyes uh, back in the ambulance, and they was all just looking at me. And but when I came out my body, I couldn't see them. I was just my whole thing was my face and what I was that I didn't want to touch. And so they were looking at me, and I said, "What happened?" And they said, "We have to shock you again." I said, "Okay, you know." So then, should I keep going? The
So,
helicopter's coming. Oh, go ahead,
yeah,
brother.
well, listen, the more you talk, the more questions that just keeps
It
popping
is.
into my mind.
It was so huge, man, and I love every minute of it. And I would, if I had to do it again, I would.
So this time
I
around, it
would.
sounds like you popped out of your body, and it sounded like an out of body experience. Although you weren't too high, it seems like you were pressed right upon your face. That you could
Yes.
see your face, you could see the body laid out that looked as if it was asleep or as if it had died.
Yes,
But
sir.
you were zoomed into your face, and you cared absolutely nothing for it. There was no attachment to this physical body, was it?
No, no. I didn't even know what I was, let alone want to get back in it. I didn't want to have nothing to do with that body. Nope.
It's amazing. We spend so much money on funerals, funeral arrangements, of bringing this person over to see the corpse, and the corpse really doesn't care about,
The
the
corpse
physical
is
body.
what it is. So, for some dirt, and that's just what it is.
You then moved into an area, as you stated, scene to scene, and you learned in this particular scene, all these flowers filling this hole, that all are actually one.
Yes, sir.
Uh, we may be divided by language, by culture, by religion, by socioeconomic status, etc. But at the end of the day, when people say things like "we are all children of God," that actually rings true.
Yes, yes. We all in that circle, and ain't no way you get escaping out of it. It's just we don't know that. We don't know. So
Yes, because we're too
yeah,
busy dividing ourselves.
too busy fighting.
You didn't say you went into what appeared to be a white room. Now, I hear about this white room very often in several near-death
Really?
experiences. Yes, I interviewed several people. In fact, the last gentleman I interviewed, he was a CIA agent who had a near-death experience, and he was in the absolutely white room. He said it was so white that anything else coming into it would completely be off. And he had this
Yes,
great dialogue there. But you were in a museum-like structure
yes,
in this white room, and you saw what many would see in a museum that is depicting ancient Egyptian artifacts. You saw these dogs for some
yes,
reason.
yes. And I still don't have a clue of why, but it is what it is.
You then move into this area where you're able to look down and see the blue planet that we're on, and it had a fog around it. And you said something very interesting and very profound, might I say. You said, how can something that beautiful have so much evil on it, or something to that effect? And I guess when you're looking at planet Earth from outside, like an astronaut will probably have the same reasoning. You look at this beautiful world,
Yes,
yet when you're on this world, there's so much suffering and unnecessary
yes,
evil that's going on in it.
yes, sir.
So you were able to see it from that perspective.
Yes, sir. Yep.
That is amazing. Just amazing. If we could only know, our potential, our spiritual potential, if we can all look down at our planet and ask ourselves the questions, what are we doing? What are we doing to ourselves? You know, but
Yeah.
I guess where we are encapsulated in this flesh and this earthly reality is very difficult to see from that perspective.
Yes. Yes.
So take
And
us
just
on.
like I meant to tell you, when I was looking at my body and didn't know what it was, I thought about when I came back, you know how some people think they're so beautiful, they God's gift to this earth and all of that. Well, when your soul pop out and look at your body, you won't think that way.
And you know, I guess that won't matter if you had $1 million worth of plastic surgery either.
No, no, buddy, it's not helping. So we see ourselves as humans one way, but when what's inside of you come out, it's not gonna want to touch you. I don't care how beautiful you think you are. It's just not gonna want to have nothing to do with you. Just that simple.
Very interesting. Now, you said
Yep.
you woke up from this eventually and asked, "Hey, what happened?" And you said you were shocked again. So, is it safe to say that you did die on this second occasion?
Oh, I was gone. Yes, yes. Just like the first, I don't know what happened. The first time, I released my urine the first time. So, but yeah, I was gone because they said they had to shock me.
So, take us into what occurred during your third death experience.
Third, okay. So the helicopter comes and picks me up because I was 80 miles away from any hospital and they wasn't going to try and take me there in an ambulance. So the bird came, picked me up, and we land on the roof, and that's when all the commotion was going on. They were screaming blockage, blockage. Uh, they took me into the operating room, start prepping me for surgery. Um, and I remember I was freezing cold because at the other place I was sweating hot. They couldn't keep these little sticky things on me, and I wanted to go to sleep. So here I am now, I'm freezing cold on this table, and they was working, everybody working, and I remember my arms were on the side of me, on the side of my body. So I opened my eyes, and my arms was up here over my head. So the guy that was next to me working, I said, "Hey," I said, "wasn't my arms on my side?" And he looked at me and said, "You didn't feel that?" I said, "No, feel what?" He said, "Man, we shocked you so hard your whole body almost flipped off onto the floor. And that's when your arms swung up." He said, "You didn't feel it?" I'm glad I didn't. No, man, I didn't feel that. I sure didn't want to. And I say, so now I knew I had died the third time. So now I'm on a regular mission of dying. So I asked him, I said, uh, I said, "Am I gonna die today?" And he said, he got real close to me. He said, "Not on my watch, you not." And they fixed me. And they put me in the hospital, in intensive care. And after the next day, they moved me uh, to a room. And I was laying at bed and I was just freaking out, man. And all what happened to me, all of that was just flooding my mind. And I'm like, I was so happy. 'Cause if you knew how I was raised, I was happy. I was so happy. I ain't see no hell. I was so happy. I said, "Man, I didn't see no hell. I didn't see nothing remotely close." And I left 3 times. I left 3 times and I didn't see that. And then just as me and you were talking, um, I heard a voice right in my head and it said, "Bryan," it said, "heaven is easy. It's all about love." And it was like somebody was sitting right there. They didn't talk to me when I was there, but they talked to me when I came back. Because you know why I knew? Right after I jumped in these near-death stores with both feet, I want to hear that again. And that's all I hear. It's all about love, those exact same words. And I didn't never really watch NDEs. I didn't know uh, about stuff like that. But I knew what I was told, and that's the way I run with it.
So, in your third near death experience, here you
Oh
finally.
yeah, yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, I
Oh, go
skipped
ahead. Yes, no, no.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. When I died that time, I am so sorry. I skipped that part. When I died, I was looking at this chair, or I thought it to be a chair. It looked more like a footstool because it didn't have a rest, a backrest. But who needs a backrest there? So I'm looking at it. It reminded me, it kind of looked like a box. I can't remember the details of it. But what part I do remember about that is the feet, what it sat on. And they were old carved wood. But man, I mean, the feet was the size of a house. This thing stood like 3 or 4 stories tall. It was huge because I was looking up at it. And on the top, on each side, they had these beautiful green vines flowing down the sides of this thing. And on these vines were these yellow flowers, and they looked like bells. So for the last, I mean, and I'm gonna tell you something, I've been looking for those flowers for a long time. And just a few weeks ago, I found some that remotely looked exactly like them, and they were yellow, just like they were, and they were shining. Um, the ones I found, you're not gonna believe the name of them. Creamy yellow angel's trumpet.
There you have it right there.
And I'm like, oh my God. They're flower, and then the name, man. I'm like, wow.
Couldn't be a
So
coincidence.
couldn't be a coincidence. No, no, because I wanted to find that flower, and I did. And behind this box or whatever, this chair, there was a light in the background shining from, and made it look even more uh beautiful or unique or different or and then I had a couple more flashes of other stuff that I can't remember. And then that was the third one.
Now, you stated that after this one is when you received the communication while laying in the bed that heaven was easy.
Yes. Oh, yes, yes. No
Yeah.
doubt in my mind.
And come to think of it, going back to your first near death experience, I know we talked about communication, and you said you really did not receive any communication, but there were words that came to you, such as forgiveness,
Oh,
love,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
Yes,
peace.
yes. I saw them in big bold letters. Yep,
So there
sure
was
did.
some sort of
It,
communication there. And I guess perhaps if we tie that to the message you received in your hospital bed after your third near death experience, perhaps it's trying to tell us that these things are right at our fingertips. Heaven is right at our fingertips if we can
it's
practice
right.
these three things at least.
At least, man. At least. I like the way you put that.
It just came to me.
Yeah,
Maybe
man.
something's talking to me.
Yeah,
You're,
that's how it works. It works that way.
yeah,
That's how it works.
your story is actually talking to me. Now, many near death experiencers describe after coming back from a near death experience, and you came back obviously from three of them, that they're changed. They're no longer the same anymore. Some of them experience heightened empathy. Some of them are actually, most of them are lacking the fear of death. They may have some sort of precognition. Did you come back with anything remotely close to these or different about yourself that you noticed after having these near death experiences?
My intuition. If I've thought about you, my phone started ringing. Um, one day I was at work and I run a bulldozer and I was working nights. And the bulldozer, the day guy was coming down the hill uh, for me to take over. And I was looking at that bulldozer and it was far away. And I would have been having light problems, lights at night. And I looked at that bulldozer and I said to myself, I want to do all the lights work. I'm not going to have problems tonight. And when I tell you that dozer lit up, all the lights came on that dozer, and it shut off, and the guy went parked, and then I almost fell on the ground. I mean, I was like, you know, okay, how did that just happen? It's like I commanded it, and it reacted to. I mean, I know this stuff sounds wild, but it gets even better. Um, I was at a friend's house. I was at a friend's house, and I was in the back room. So something just said, look, turn around. I was standing by the bed doing something. And something just said, turn around. So I turned around and looked at the door, which was closed. So the door opened, and there was my friend. She had her hand on the doorknob. She put one hand on the frame of the door. She tilted her head to the side and she started smiling. So that just disappeared and the door opened again. I had already saw her come in the room before she came in the room. Man, let me tell you, and then she did the exact same thing. I mean, she had her hand on the door, put a hand on the frame, tilted her head to the side and started smiling. Do you know I almost passed out? I did not know what was going on.
Sounds like heavy, heavy deja vu there.
Man, and so I couldn't look. I had to look away because I'm looking at her like, I just saw you do that. I saw you do that already. But how can I tell her that? You know? So, and then another part, I feel I left my body twice because when it happened to me, it felt the same way. It felt the same way. I don't know if this was a dream. I don't know, but I was in this auditorium and it was huge. The whole auditorium was dark, but I knew it was full of people and it was huge. I was sitting like halfway up, and there were three people with me because they were busy doing something. I couldn't see, I couldn't see them, but I knew they were with me. You just know, we was a part of some group. Down at the bottom, there was one light in this whole place, and it was shining on the floor of the platform. Next thing you know, me and whoever was with me was down on the platform, and I don't know why we were there, but whatever they were doing wasn't working, and they had a microphone right where the light was pointing in front of all these people. I went to that microphone. And it ended as I grabbed that microphone and I start telling my near death story in front of all these people in the dark, all these people in the dark. And I'm the only one with the light shining on me, and I'm telling that story. And man, when I tell you it seemed so real, I knew something happened. It didn't feel like a dream. And the next time that happened, I was with my partner. We were traveling, and I was tired, man. I got in the tub. I got in the tub and I asked her, "Can you please pour some water on my back or wash my back for me?" And soon as she poured that water on me, I was gone. I was gone, and I was somewhere floating above. I think it was a campfire. I couldn't remember exactly what I was looking at, but it seemed like a campfire with other people around it. But I was floating above them. And then I can hear my girlfriend calling my name, and it sounded like it was far away. And I start paying attention to her. And next thing you know, I was back in the tub. And I looked at her. I said, "Hey," did I go to sleep?" She said, "No, you just all of a sudden totally stopped moving. And you weren't moving. And so I had to call your name a few times. And that's when I was wherever I was and I can hear her. I could hear her calling my name. So I can tell you I can't understand that, but stuff happens to me like that. Just 2 weeks ago, I was in my house, and it's the only time I really I had any kind of fear hit me since I've been back. And I've been back 3 years almost, October 3rd. I was in my bedroom cleaning my bedroom. I live in a camper because I work on the road. Inside my living room, there's a man and a lady talking, and it sounded like the TV. And I stopped and I walked in here. It was a brief little convo they were having, and then it stopped. And so I walked in my living room. I looked around, and I can admit I did get a little like, what was that? But I heard it plain as day, clear as a bell. So I had to go back to my spiritual stuff to say, hey man, you've been having a lot of wild stuff happen. So that's just another one. So I'm sure there's gonna be a whole lot more.
So it
That
sounds
stuff that wasn't in my book because people probably wouldn't understand. You know what I'm saying? But there's an audience that will understand. So
absolutely. And again, after effects are, or at least seem like a real phenomenon that near-death experiencers come back with. And it sounds like you were catapulted into this great sixth sense type ability when you came back from your near-death experience. Almost able to go into deep meditation and almost physically leave your body, go somewhere else, to the point where your girlfriend stated that you were in this still state and had to call your name a few times.
yes, because she said you just totally stopped moving, not nothing. And then she like, okay, what's going on with this dude? But
Yes.
yeah, man, I can hear her way far away calling my name.
Now, you mentioned your book. Why don't you tell us what the title of this book is and where we can find it?
The title of the book is called Death Freed Me, because that's exactly what it did. I was free. I was more free than you can ever know. And um, it's some okay. I wasn't gonna write a book. I was satisfied with my story, but then all the questions started coming. How did you live? How was you raised? All these questions. So I put them together. You know, I tried to answer. I started from when I was a little boy and loved God because I used to, if I find a dead animal in the yard, I would build a sacrifice thinking I was sending that bird to God. I was like 8 years old thinking that way, man.
So the care for life in general, not just human life, started very early.
It started early. That started early.
And so your book kind of goes into these episodes of
It,
your life and leads up to your near-death experiences.
it leads up to it, and plus all the times that I almost died before that day. So
And
it's a very interesting story.
and where can we find this book?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's on Amazon Kindle. That's where it is. Right now it's an ebook. I'm trying to finish. I get little glitches with it. The book should be ready tomorrow, so next day. Just got to finish a couple of details, and then you could be able to get a paperback.
Well, Bryan, it sounds like you have a lot going for you right now. I'm very glad you wrote the book. A lot of people are into podcasts, but there's still a number of people out there who like to read. And I'm
Yes,
sure in your book, you can give us even more details and we can kind of put all the information together to try to make even more sense to us.
yes. Especially, I mean, this life is totally different. When you The best way I describe it, while we are here, it's like we're in a box. When you die, everything opens up, man. My mind is so wide open now, and and then to come back and you try and tell people it's okay, everything's gonna be okay, but you know they don't know because they haven't seen it. And then I went to the depression. Oh my God, that was months of actually waking up crying as to why I had to come back here. I hated this place. And it took a while for me because people start telling me, man, your story changed my life. Your story. And I didn't want to hear that. It was good to hear. Don't get me wrong. It was good to hear. And, but man, after you've been there, you don't want no parts of this place. And it took me a while to know that people needed to hear my story. So now I'm okay with being
Which
a
means
little bit.
you had a purpose.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
you had a
Yes, sir.
mission here. And part of that mission is to bring that knowledge to those who did not experience what you experienced, but now it changed their life, as the one person said to you. And
Yes,
because
sir.
you're here, that was able to occur.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, Bryan, once again, you're doing great things, and I want to thank you for coming on Real Spiritual Talk Radio and sharing with us your
Man.
absolutely fascinating account.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Thank you. And
All right.
ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bryan Jordan.